do a call to order and our pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on, we'll start with the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting from August 11th, 2025.
I move to approve.
I second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, moving on, we have the minutes of the special board meeting that was held on August 25th, 2025.
I move to approve.
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. And finally, the approval of the annual board meeting minutes from August 25th, 2025.
I move to approve.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. On to the approval of the general fund vouchers, 82,585 through 82644, and wire transfers 2026-0030 through 2026-0062.
I move to approve the general funds and wire transfers as read.
I'll second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Public comments, there is no public, so there are no comments. On to approvals of resignations and retirements.
Okay, I've got two resignations. Laura Boyle, elementary food service. She was actually recently hired and then had a change in life plans and was not able to actually start working here. So she kind of resigned before she got a chance to get started. And then I've also got, just today I received Brenna Peterson resigning from her JV girls basketball coaching position. Just got that today, and again, just kind of life plans and not be able to do it with her new schedule. So.
I move to approve the resignations and retirements.
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. Motion passes. We move forward to a more positive note, approval of hires.
Okay, and this is just a small one here, but we are concession stand coordinator or advisor, Carrie Blanchard. Carrie's done it for the last number of years, and last spring, or late winter, she felt like she wanted to step away from that, kind of had it reconsidered and is willing to continue doing it, so we're grateful for that. Our concession stand has been thriving the last several years. So Carrie Blanchard for the concession coordinator.
Do we need to approve that? Okay, since you officially, okay. I need a motion of approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the concession stand advisor coordinator hire.
All right,
Second.
okay. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. On to the review of the start of the school year.
Okay, so we've just had, 4 now, our 5th day, 4 days of school now, 5 days of school today. Usually like to just give a quick recap or any highlights. I'd asked the principals to share a few things from their buildings from the first couple of days. Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll keep it shorter than the one from the meeting, the annual meeting, but just a huge thank you to the teaching staff here. We've got a really nice mix of veteran teachers and young teachers and teachers in the middle of their career, and this mix has made for the last couple of years to get the building up and running. That first week of school has been really smooth, and this year was much the same. So it's they come in, they know what to do, and we get it taken care of. And even though we're only 5 days in, it actually feels like we've been here a few weeks, and that we're right in the middle of the school year. So a huge thank you to the staff, a huge thank you to Sue Rubel, who ran our Camp Junior High. That was great. She's just been a huge help in helping our incoming 7th graders transition from the elementary school to this building. So a debt of gratitude to her.
Okay. Elementary notes. We have received 25 new students in the elementary over the summer, so that was exciting. So lots of new faces, not only within our student body, but of course with our teaching staff and our support staff as well. So with that newness comes, the challenges of onboarding everybody to get them back up and up to speed. So that's actually I'm on the steering committee for a CISA curriculum coordinator group, and that's one of the things that we are discussing next week is how to onboard, because every school is going through changes in staff, and how do you get everyone to where they need to be and still move those goals forward. So we just have some exciting ongoing goals connected to the strategic plan with our early literacy work with Act 20. We're starting in with the Ames Web Plus screener that the state mandated last year. We're starting next week. Actually, we're starting on Wednesday for some of the kids, so with our earlies. So that'll help the scorecard actually kind of make sense. We'll actually see fall, mid-year, winter, or mid-year and spring actual same goal throughout the whole thing. So, but again, great staff, very dedicated. They're willing to help anyone, and I would say it feels like the middle of the year, but we have 4-year-olds in the building, so it still feels very new. So, but we are off to a really, really positive start as well.
Yeah. I just want to add quickly too that everyone's talked about a smooth start and a strong start, and that doesn't happen by accident. And I just want to compliment our leadership team, our administrators, for one thing, school administratorship, but also all of our department leaders, from transportation to IT to food service. Just the tenacity with which they get after things and work hard and dive in and get the work done, and then also just the teamwork and the way they all work together so well is really great. And it's I think the strongest team that I've had the privilege to work with. So I just again, all of those, that successful start doesn't happen by accident. So compliments to everybody who's helping to lead it. Okay.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Okay, then we move on to the update of the new district website, the mobile app, and notification system.
Yeah, and just briefly a few words about that. Just we want to just continue to get the word out there that we've got some changes with our communication apps, and so our website went live a couple of weeks ago. There's a couple little things that we tweaked with it right away that were just to clean it up a little bit better. That'll be an ongoing thing. Our old one was always an ongoing fix and change. That'll be the case with our new one. The feedback that we've gotten has been pretty positive. It's just a cleaner look and just more simplified and just define things. But certainly there's still work to do on it. So of course, the mobile app is a nice addition just for those quick go-to kind of pieces of information, I think. And again, we're going to continue to enhance and tweak that. And just we want to make it as usable and user-friendly. If it's good, people will use it, right? And if it's not good, people aren't going to use it. So, but it's pretty good. And then the last part is our notification system. So there's something called alerts, or that's the piece that we would use to make let's say an emergency closure for snow day or something like that. So that part has been a little bit of a delay and a little bit of frustration, but it's a technology thing with how our Skyward system, all the data that's in there has to interface with Aptigee, and so there's just been some things we're tweaking with that. I actually just got an email message about an hour or two ago, and I think we're set to go. So I'm going to send out some test messages internally, and then I wanted to send a test message to families last week, and I was disappointed that didn't happen, but I'll get it out here this week and just kind of test it out so people see who gets it, who doesn't. There's always weird little things, little quirks and stuff like that. And some of it often usually has to do with people going and cleaning up their data in Skyward on family access. And then we've also got, the last part is our Rooms system. And Rooms is that tool where classroom teachers can communicate with their class parents and kids. Coaches can communicate with parents and athletes or whatever club they're running. And again, for the fall, we're not using it. They already started the season. We said we're not going to make you switch apps midstream or anything like that. But for the winter season going forward, actually, Mr. Rosine has talked to the winter and spring coaches to let them know, hey, going forward, we're going to use this one tool. So like anything, it's a transition, but overall been positive and going to be really good, I think. Not I think, I know.
Okay.
And you can file in the policy packet.
Yeah.
much easier.
Greg, you ready to go?
Sure. Next item of business, correct me if I'm wrong, is item E, approval of the 25-26 District Emergency Procedures Manual.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, so this is our manual for all of our things like fire drills, severe weather drills, first aid, hold procedures, lockdown procedures, bomb threats, all those kind of things. So this is something that we look at every year. We did not make any major changes to it. Last 2 years ago, we really updated our reunification plan. But this year, really no changes. We always go in, though, every year and review it. And I guess the biggest work, the amount of work that we did last year, too, is related to this was the threat assessment protocol. So now if we have a threat that's reported, or whether it's a small thing or a big thing, a student threatening about their own safety or something like that, now there's a protocol that we follow that's just a little bit more systematic. We always would investigate and make sound decisions, and now there's just a cleaner protocol that has more than one person involved. And oftentimes, ironically, more of those come from like elementary students saying things out of anger, out of a football game, or frustration, or whatever, lacking the emotional maturity, and then they say something that sounds really bad that they shouldn't say, but then we do a full assessment to say, okay, is there an actual threat here? And so we take it seriously every time. But that's been the biggest thing. But anyway, we like to just show that, hey, we review it every year. We get it to talk. We talk about it, and we do our safety report to the Department of Justice, and they like to see it being a board agenda item, and just to show that we do review it and then we talk about it, and then we collaborate with our local police. We met with them in August, brought them in to talk about it, and just kind of get an update on things. So I just would ask for the annual approval of the plan.
Question, Chris, before we go
Yes.
on that is, I didn't get a chance to read the procedures, but is notifying the school board of an emergency part of the protocol?
Depends on the emergency, but typically, and ironically, I think now everybody's got students in school, so Nettie just graduated, so, but you're also going to get those parent notifications too, so that's generally, I consider that to be kind of like, if there's something big, like I'm going to make sure, to keep you apprised of that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the 25-26 District Emergency Procedures Manual.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the emergency procedures manual. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the strategic plan scorecard review.
Okay, so this follows our annual schedule that we establish. And so we're on the 25-26 school year and calendar for strategic planning for 25-26, but this is the closeout of the 24-25. So you might recall we don't get all the academic data from the ACT and the forward exam and all that kind of stuff in any meaningful way that we can break it down until into the summer. And so when we come back, that's what the teams have been doing, is looking at that, and then we fit into these last couple of busy weeks, fit in making sure we had our data updated in there. So we're just going to we'll start with, I think, the elementary, then the high school, then special ed and district, but just talk through Pillar 1, mainly it's the academic stuff, and then I've got a few brief things from Pillar 2 staff and Pillar 4 operations. So I think Teresa was going to go first with the elementary, right? So the elementary scorecard.
If you open up the scorecard, before I start just babbling, just take a peek at the numbers. You'll notice there's different colors. Just a moment to scroll. Again, we're just moving from foster high levels of learning for all into promote growth. Other things have already been shared.
Yeah, support well-being and so on. Below that, we talked about that last June.
So the, a big indicator for us certainly is the Wisconsin State Forward Exam given in the elementary building to our 3rd through 6th graders. Now, if you look at the spring 24 scores, that is a different cohort of students than in spring of '25, because our spring of '24 are now, some of them have left our building and they are over here when they took it in '25. So there is a little different cohort of students there, but we did not reach our goal, and as disappointing as that is, it does really give us the charge to dig deeper into that data, which we consistently do. And we are, I think some of the things we have put in place, even with our early literacy, they're getting those foundational pieces now that they're getting into those older grades. So I'm confident that we will see growth in those scores. Any questions regarding the forward exam? And then the Fast Bridge, should be a nice indicator of, in a sense, how we potentially could do on that forward exam, because it is assessing, what the standards that grade level would need, not necessarily Wisconsin state standards, because Fast Bridge is nationwide, but you would think that they would match fairly closely. This year, like I had mentioned previously, mid-year, our youngest students, kindergarten through third grade, changed to a different assessment tool stated by the state of Wisconsin. So our fall to spring could not necessarily be followed, but our mid-year to spring could be with our youngest students. So you can look at some of the scores there. To think, let's say math with our second through sixth graders who were all using Fast Bridge, 75% of our students, proficient in grade level benchmark math, but still not reaching our goals. So we're setting goals that are high. We want to, not just set goals that are attainable just by that first fall test, but we want to make sure that we are pushing our kids to those high standards. And then the promote growth is almost the opposite of what we just talked about with the high levels of learning. It's just reducing and really making up those gaps. So, any questions?
If I could, Mrs. Anderson, the forward exam, that's the one the state does. The Fast Bridge we do within our own walls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the forward is changed every other year, it seems, by the state to try to make it so we can't really use it for anything for comparison reasons.
Sometimes it feels that way.
I'll let our superintendent.
I mean, we've had now the same test for quite a while, because I remember we had a period of years where we had 3 years and 3 different tests. We went from WKCE to the Badger to the Forward to nothing, and then I don't know. They did adjust the cut scores last year, where they cut off to what is a 1, 2, a 3, and a 4. At the same time, they also changed the names, and you guys know the names, and I can never remember the names of what used to be advanced and proficient and so on, and they've changed now. But the forward exam, my take on that has always been, it's an important thing to look at, but it's one day, it's one test, one day of the year. So it's testing you against a standard. Forward has high standards. I mean, I can recall a student being in the elementary school 90th percentile rank on their ELA score. Still wasn't a 4 on the test. So it's like it has very high, where the cut scores are quite high, which is good. We want to have rigorous standards. So whereas Fast Bridge is a normed test, right? Where it's right. Am I right, Teresa? Where it's, sorry, putting you on the spot. Where it's the normed percentile based on all the kids taking it across the country. So the important thing is, I think, to look at multiple sources of data.
I would say the goal setting that we are doing with each student in 3rd through 6th grade, we do compare them to the state, how we're performing against other students that same age, and so that's really helpful for the teachers to see too, like how are our kids doing compared to the rest of the state of Wisconsin.
Fun stuff. Anything else regarding
The high
Mrs.
school.
Anderson's portion? All right.
Mr. Melbourne?
High school, so our lagging indicator for our 7th and 8th graders, just like the elementary school, is the forward exam. But for our high school students, it's the pre-ACT and the ACT, which we've just learned in the last couple of weeks, Greg, that they're adjusting what that looks like too. A new test, not a new test, but it'll be made some adjustments to the number of questions and the number of choices kids have for this spring. But I'm going to walk you through. We start with our juniors, and then I'm going to work down to our 7th graders. So you can see on the far right-hand side that more red there than I'd like to see. Our juniors met the goal in science, but we didn't meet it in the other 4 categories. I will say that we saw growth in almost all and maintained in 1. So if you look at the left side where it says their 2024 score, that's the last year's juniors as sophomores, what they scored as their predicted ACT score were when they were juniors. So what we did learn is that what we're using for our predicted ACT scores is working because those numbers match up pretty well. We saw a little bit of growth on each of them and maintained in math. Our goal is to get some more growth out of that, but at least we're heading the right direction there. Our sophomores, they knocked it out of the park. I'm going to say it was leadership of the principal's office, but I'm not sure.
I'm sorry.
I can take any credit.
Are we talking juniors, meaning last year's juniors?
That
Yeah,
would
so
be
they're
last
seniors.
year's juniors, yep, closing out
Just wanna
last
make
year's.
sure. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. So the sophomores are our current juniors right now,
And these are all of them.
Mhm.
all of them.
Every kid.
Yep. And so, yes, our sophomores they did awesome. I mean, the amount of growth that we saw from their 2024 scores to their 2025 scores was, our goal is if we can maintain those scores their junior year, we're going to see a big uptick. So that, very happy with the way things went there. Our freshmen, this is the second year in a row that our CERT, the program, that it's our leading indicator, has predicted some higher scores for our freshmen than what they're getting on the pre-ACT. But I'll also say that we don't have anything when we set the freshman goal. They haven't taken the pre-ACT or any type of ACT test, so we have nothing to compare themselves to. So what we did was the state average, and we didn't quite get there in 4 of the 5 categories. But also, as I dug deeper into this and learning from this process, is this group was also below the state average in the forward exam. So expecting them to jump that much probably wasn't a fair goal to set on my part. But we're hoping that with some strategies that we have in place for next year, or for this year, I should say, that we can get some jumps there with this group like we did with sophomores this last year.
So was that sophomore group ahead on the forward exam then too?
That sophomore group, percentage-wise, would have been above the state average.
Yeah, so that's pretty much a bright group
Which-
of kids.
The nice thing is there's some comparison between the 2 tests. That's about the only thing I can find to compare the 2 tests, but
Yeah.
at least we can try and maintain something all the way through to track them.
Or you have some sort of indicator coming in.
Right. If a kid finishes in the 70th percentile on 8th grade math
Mhm.
and the forward, pretty good idea that they're going to be 68 to 72 on the pre-ACT. Going to our 7th and 8th graders, we didn't get the growth that we wanted there. We've got some things in place this year. We've upped some time in win time to try and address this. But also we're seeing a trend that we go from, we're struggling to go from that 6th grade test to that 7th grade test. I don't have answers for you on why that is. I've got some ideas. But either way, we're staying above the 50th, which is a good spot to be. But our hope is that we're consistently closer to that 60th percentile for the class average, in ELA and math for those 2. Scrolling down, the promote growth. This is where we are trying to shrink the number of kids that are in that bottom category that Mr. Peterson was talking about of the 1, 2, 3, 4. We're trying to get as many kids out of that developing, right?
Developing is the lowest, approaching is the next lowest, meeting is where they need to be
and then advanced as advanced.
So we're trying to shrink that developing as much as we possibly can across the board. So our high school students, this year we had about 22%. We're trying to get that down below 20% if we can. And so we've got some work to do there. But if you look at our ELA and math for our junior high kids last year, 9 and 10% of our kids. So we've really shrunk that number over the last few years to get as many kids out of that developing and into that approaching stage. Hopefully we're filling the gap and building some skills so they can have a little bit more success in the classroom and on these tests. I think that's the end of mine. If you have any questions.
Comment, I guess I've got, the kids that I'm raising now, I don't think would be able to compete with our ACT, so I realize why they have to kind of adjust that down a little bit for them.
Well, Don, you're up.
No, you're not
Quick,
done.
fast, that walk.
That's what I tell my kids too.
Okay, so you guys can look at my scorecard now. I'll let you just take a look at it for just a couple things, and I'll go over because there's a couple things I have to look at. Our actual kids, and I break it down by kids, which I can't obviously share with you guys, but I have like a whole spreadsheet I do on all of the kids and what their scores were, where they are now, here and there. With having students with disabilities, it's a much smaller group of kids versus an entire grade. But if we look at, I was nice and surprised with a lot of things. I was very happy on some things. So like elementary, on the forward, on the ELA, 37% of our students with disabilities increased their percentile rank by 6% or more. So if they had a percentile rank of, 1, and then this next like last year they had a percentile rank of 1, and they had a percentile rank of now 14. Great jump. And then and in math on the forward for our elementary students, 46% of them increased by 6% or more. So I was pleased on that too. One thing I do want to say that's kind of interesting for ELA, we always talk about going from like one level, like developing to approaching, or approaching to meeting, or whatever. So we had increase of scores. We didn't have as many kids as I wanted to move from one level to the next, because that's hard to do. But we did have, in ELA, we did have one student that went from, I think, developing to approaching. So that was 4% of the kids in the elementary for ELA. In math, though, we had, for math, ELA, let me look, or math, we had 4 of our kids increase a level from their previous year. So that was 17% of our special needs students in the elementary that jumped into the next category, which I thought was good. For junior high on ELA, we had 42% of the students increase by 6% or more. And in math for junior high, we had 25% of the students increase by 6% or more. And again, for ELA, we have 12 students that were looked at in junior high last year. 4 out of the 12 moved a level in ELA. So they switched from developing to approaching, or approaching to meeting. So that was 33% of our kids that actually increased a level in ELA in junior high. And then in math, math for junior high, we only had 2 that moved a level, so that was 17% of the kids there. The next part is the growth. The goal was to decrease our kids with special needs that were performing below the 5th percentile. So 6% of that, of our 19% that we had, that were scoring below, we wanted to be at 17.8. Well, on ELA, I skipped. I'll go back to high school once we get done with this. But on the ELA, we stayed the same. We didn't have any change of the kids that were already below the 5th percentile. We had maybe one that, like, one would, like, the overall numbers, like, one might have been, we still had the same number of kids that were below the 5th percentile. But, like, maybe last year, we had one that from last year went into the next category, or went above the 5th percentile, but then we had somebody that dropped below. So the numbers ended up staying the same for ELA. And then for forward math, we had wanted to decrease by 6%, and they needed to have 21.6% of our kids. We had 19. So we actually did drop. So we did have less kids below the 5th percentile in math for growth. So that was good on that. Junior, senior high, for growth, we had wanted all of our high school kids for the pre-ACT and the ACT composite score to decrease by 6% if they scored below an 11 of a composite score. None of our kids scored below an 11. They were all 12 or above on their composite score this year, which was great. So we had 100% who did what they were supposed to be doing. Back to just, so we're on the first part, senior high, on the pre-ACT and ACT, we had 64% of our high schoolers increase their composite score by 6%. So we had some kids that went from like a composite score of 14 to a composite score of 18. You know, I can think of one right off the top of my head that did that. And we had other kids that had a composite score of like an 11, and then they had a composite score of like a 14. So it was good. So we got to see some good jumps there with our kids with special needs.
How many opted out?
How many opted out?
I know that previous.
We only had 2 opt out of the ACT. We had nobody opt out of the pre-ACT for special needs students. So, and actually one that opted out actually moved prior to the ACT, so it didn't count anyways. So we only had one that opted out of school for the ACT.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Butters.
From the district scorecard, I can talk more briefly about the academic stuff. We've heard a lot from the principals and from Dawn about that. So what we try to do from the district level is just take more of a higher level approach. So that first part there, the foster high levels of learning for all. So we just take we take 3rd grade reading and we take 8th grade math. Those are 2 measures that are on the state report cards. So that's kind of why we do that. It's just a good sampling. And so you're measuring, the last year's, spring of 2024 is a different group of kids from spring of 2025. So you're not comparing how one group changed. You're comparing one year to the next. So you can see the volatility of our performance. That's with our small groups of kids, they're just going to have that level of volatility. So we did not meet our goal in 3rd grade reading achievement. In our 8th grade math achievement, we were closer, but we did not meet our goal there too. We also a big theme of these discussions that we've been having is, this is our first year of like really full implementation, and like we've reflected a lot every time we meet to do this on like, oh man, why did we write that goal that way? Or we should word it differently next year. Or like, oh, if we tracked this instead, we could show this more easily. So we're learning and refining, which we knew would be part of the process, just how we want to set our goals every year. The next section, the promote growth, is a prime example of that. So, for example, so we've got the high school listed first there, and again, a mix of green and red. And then, like, for example, the middle school. So we set a goal saying that we're going to, it's the percentage of kids who are at benchmark or above for math and ELA. And, so we had 85% of our kids start out on Fastbridge in the fall at proficient, and we said, we're going to move that, 4% up to 89. And, you think about it, it's like, well, starting out at 84 is a pretty high level. Go through over the years, we're trying to get 70 to 80% of kids at benchmark, and we're starting out at 84, so it maybe wasn't the best to say we're going to grow 4% percentage points, because here we are, at 86% at the end of the year, which is a really great, 86% at benchmark, and I have to code it as red. So that's not, we realized like, oh, that wasn't a very good goal. We want to maybe do it a little bit differently. But again, we are trying to show growth and trying to take, the highest achieving classes, we're still trying to push them to grow even more. So some non-green scores there, but also some really good performance there for middle school math and ELA. Same with elementary Fastbridge. And again, Fastbridge is the fall, winter, spring screening, test that we do. So this test is the same kids, fall, winter, and spring, showing their growth. If you remember the elementary, we talked about this mid-year, the test changed from fall to winter because that was the implementation of the new statewide Ames Web. Every district had to switch to that. And next year now we'll have more consistency. We've got a more consistent plan, but we didn't find out till June of the prior year what the new screener was going to be, and we'd already, just like districts across the state, we'd already purchased our plans for that year. So we had the weird, so I didn't color code any of those on the bottom because it's apples and avocados. It's, it's not the same test, but it still, shows percentage of kids who are at benchmark, even though it's two different tests, at least based on that test, what percentage of kids are at benchmark or above. So, so that's the academic part from the district level. Any questions about that part before I move on to the second pillar? The only thing from the second pillar that we wait until here in September to do is the first thing. So pillar 2 is the staff, our strength, and recruit and retain, and we do a retention rate. And so we calculate, so Eve does a great job with this. We look at every employee who started a school year and frozen in time, and then we look at the end of that year and we go through every employee and anybody who did not return, whether it's a resignation, whether it's a retirement, or whether it's not being invited back or whatever, the rarity that happens. But we just look at resignations. So when we do our retention rate, we just calculate resignations. We don't count retirements. That's, if someone spends their career here and retires, that's what we want. That's good retention. So we don't want that to penalize us. But it's people who move on to a different opportunity. So we met our goal of staying above 90% of retention. So the rest of those items under Pillar 2 we already looked at. And then briefly, if we scroll down to Pillar 4, again, this is all stuff that we talked about at the annual meeting and the August meeting. So just a reminder that our fund balance, we did boost our fund balance up a whole %, which is quite a bit. We're at 18% at the end of the 24-25 school year, and 18% of our total expenses. Our fund balance, that's a healthy spot to be, again, so we avoid having to have short-term borrowing. And then there's not necessarily numeric goals here, it's just checkpoints to say, are we, using tools to monitor the budget. We have the monthly reports that you guys see in there. Eve and I look at, different points throughout the year, just where we're at budget-wise, do those check-ins. We use projected enrollment data in the spring to look at staffing for the following year, just to making sure that we're doing those things. Fund 46, We talk about our balance, and we've maintained, we've been able to do some nice projects and still maintain a balance in our Fund 46. And then the other question from the spring questionnaire from parents is, from staff. I have the materials and supplies I need to do my job well, and again, we're still at 92% there, which is a really strong score. And then the next parent survey won't be till next year. So, but just wanted to do a check-in as well on the Pillar 4 items. So we'll put this one in the books, and we'll post. Always post the update on the webpage after we're done here, and then. Just reflections on the first year, a lot of learning. The alignment is evident. The alignment between district goals, building goals, PLC teams and department teams on down. It's just, we're having great conversations where departments and grade levels are having focused conversations when they get together. There's again, just a high level conversation about growth and data that we haven't had always over the years. So I'm really proud of that, and I'm really proud of the leadership of the teachers and our administrative team for leading that.
Sounds real good. I look forward to seeing the direction continue that we've got with the momentum that we've got going. So, any other questions in regards to the strategic plan? Okay, well, the next item of business is the board policy updates and approvals. It's a second reading of the following board policy updates: 6235, 6620, 7410, 7430, 7440, 7540.03, 7540.04, 8395, and 8531, and 8600. We've all had a chance. We've had the first reading. We went through them. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to bring before the board about any of these policies? All right, if not, then I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the board policies that were read. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business are superintendent notes. Mr. Christopher Peterson.
Okay, so obviously we've got school started back up and we've got kids in the building. I wanted to start out too by saying I placed at all of your spots on the table a letter that each of you got from the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, and I just want to highlight our school board. You all got a letter and it's talking about how you've all achieved either level 2 or level 3 or higher basically it's based on professional development. And so it's really impressive to see how our board engages in that professional development by going to the convention or going to regional meetings or taking part in online courses that we have access to. So I just wanted to put that on record and just compliment our board for the way that they take seriously the learning that you do to be great board members and the professional development with WASP. So I just wanted to highlight that. Just the last month since our last meeting, lots of just the build up to school, tons of meetings, trainings, and preparation. Just highlight, we had a meeting with the Polk County Community Service leaders. They tend to do, like they call it, an annual road show where they go around and touch base and meet with leadership at all the different school districts in Polk County. So we had a meeting with them. Nice networking, nice to just develop a better relationship and a relationship to know faces to names and understand better some of the services that they offer, and they can understand some of the questions that we have for them. So that was good. There's also a group of high school teachers, and it's district-wide, but a group that's organizing a team for, there's an annual suicide awareness walk in Balsam Lake on September 20th, and it raises a lot of funds and awareness for the issues of mental health in our communities. And last year they made a big donation. They donated $700 to our school, and we didn't even have a team. So we're having a team this year and just trying to raise more awareness to it and of the event. It's a nice event. In service, and again, just I'm impressed with the focus and the urgency of the conversations, the meetings. The meetings aren't just about managerial, how to run the day. The meetings that our leaders are having are about in-depth, how are we moving learning forward and how are we growing and developing as teachers. And so it's impressive to see. And those days fill up with a lot of stuff because there's a lot of work to do. So fall sports have all had their first competitions here under their belt. Marching band, I think, has been marched in 3 parades already. Got 1 more to go before they wrap up the marching season. We're always looking for substitutes of all types, whether it be paras, teachers, food service, custodial, bus drivers. We put an ad out again. We do that usually every August. We're looking especially for substitute bus drivers. We will actually train. Mr. Osmond a few years ago got certified so he can train. People want to apply. We can actually train you to help you get your bus license, and if you come and work for us. So trying to keep getting that word out there. And then, I guess that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Our next item of business then is our contemplated closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 119.85, paragraph 1F. The board will consider financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons. I will pull the board. Nettie?
Yes.
Cora?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Christie?
Yep.
Matthew?
Yep.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ms. Powers.
Good night.
All right, time to go home and eat.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back into open then. Did you push play again,
Yep,
Chris?
we're recording.
All right. Future agenda items. Anybody have anything that they would like to put on a future agenda? Okay. Then the next item of business will be our adjournment. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
I am.
Motion passes. We are adjourned.